There she goes. Okay, first of all, I guess I'll officially welcome us. Sorry, as I'm juggling screens and trying to see what I can see. This is the moment I'm going to say officially welcome to this week's weekly briefing. I'm spotlighting you, Matt, so you feel like if you feel like everyone's staring at you, there's good reason. Welcome. I'm Joel. This is my colleague, Matt. I'm in New York. Matt, you're coming to us from Sydney, Australia, which sounds very exotic and lovely right now. But this is the weekly briefing, which is a 30-minute pause we do every week, 5 o'clock Eastern. For anyone that's new here, this is the moment we take a quick break to say, hey, what's going on? What's new? What do business owners need to know in this space that are running creative studios, production companies, creative agencies? And Matt, here's what I know. This time of year, people start to think about what did this year mean? And they look back and reflect, and it's been pretty much an awesome year, but we're hearing from a lot of people about this. Well, a few months ago, a lot of the companies in the States especially were sort of taking their foot off the gas. And then about a month ago, we started hearing they're tapping the brakes. There's the layoffs, there's the looming recession, all this kind of stuff. So now people are starting to say, well, if the new year is going to be a recession, let's not make that a foregone conclusion, but if it was, what am I going to do about it? So people are already starting to talk about sales and creating new habits and putting some routines in place. So what would be your first thought to people that are just worried?
I think, it's a good time to reflect and build some strategies for what you're going to do next year. I mean, the worst thing you can do is to start reacting. I think, like we were talking yesterday in the saleskeeping workshop about your lizard brain and going into your limbic system. And I think one of the worst things you can do is to plunge into that hole where you start just doing things without a plan and slipshod and just kind of reacting badly. I think it's a good time to be planning and doing stuff, in which I think building sales habits and planning out how you're going to do it. And rather than thinking, I'm just going to talk to everybody, think going, who are the 20 most important people to talk to? How am I going to see them? What am I going to sell? And how do I make sure I'm selling the right things? That's what I would say.
So something I noticed, because I have a few owners I'm working with directly they were asking me this question: how do I know if things are slowing down for us? Because I'm looking at my receivables and I'm looking at my cash and they seem kind of normal. And I said, well, let's look at your sales pipeline. And they still sort of had this blank stare because, well, in my sales pipeline, let's say I've got $1 million or $2 million that's like in play. They were like, well, what do I do with that? And I said, well, how much do you normally have in your sales pipeline at this time of the year? And their answer was, I don't know. I said, okay, first off, let's start tracking and create a simple thing called every month, we're going to monitor how much deal flow, dollar value, potential revenue do we have in our sales pipeline. And then we can just simply track that. And we know, hey, in December, we normally have, let's call it $1 million in our sales pipeline. If it's significantly below that any given November, it makes us just ask a question, why? And then we can start making decisions. So that's just one simple report. But do you remember this little crazy cheap diagram that I drew also about the what did I call it? When you're in denial. I'm gonna draw this, okay? So you can kind of talk us through it. So you see my little graph here? Can you read it? Okay, that's money. And then this is going to be over time. So here's what I'm going to draw.
The term you're scrambling for is hyperbolic discounting.
Yes.
It's a behavioral term where we would rather live for short-term wins than long-term wins. We'd rather get when you ask children, would they have a small box of chocolate today or a large box of chocolate next week? They'll go for the easy win rather than the bigger win.
So here it is. I'm drawing. Here's your sales pipeline. Okay, so when you're here, sorry, this is all backwards for me. When you're here and your pipeline is getting filled up with deals and jobs, you're like, yay, we have more and more potential money in play. Okay, but these jobs haven't been awarded because they're in your sales pipeline. What happens? What happens is somewhere about here, you finally win a job. You have enough deals in your pipeline, the probabilities work in your favor, whatever happens, okay? The gods smile on you, and a job awards. So then you start making money. And so here's the money, okay? Now the money is always less than the pipeline because the pipeline has a lot in it and you only win a few jobs out of that pipeline. So it looks kind of like this. So I'm going to draw, here's your actual revenue. Did I spell that right? I think I did. Okay, so here's the actual revenue. And you notice how the revenue trails, right? So this is when you know, the job that you were maybe bidding on back here, okay, it actually awards here. And now you're starting to make money. And you're like, yay, we just closed a job or two. And we're really, really busy. And we're making lots of money, okay? So what I want to point out here is this little moment. I'm going to use a different weight pen because I'm fancy. Okay, what is your brain doing right there at that little arrow spot that I just drew? That intersection. That intersection.
You are in denial.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, I'm going to draw a smiley face because you're like, yay, we're super busy and we're making lots of money, and it distracts you, right? It distracts you from what's actually happening because look at your revenue. Your revenue is about to follow your sales pipeline and it's about to tank. But because you're so busy and you're working on the job and whatever, your head down and you think, okay, we just got the first half payment. We're going to collect the second half soon. Yay. Your eye is off the ball. And like you said, what was it called? Hyperbolic what?
Hyperbolic discounting.
So hyperbolic discounting, right? It's that idea of, well, if I'm focused on the job today and making money today, right? I'm eating the marshmallow or the candy or whatever the little mental experiment was, then that's much better than focusing on next week or next month. And then we get stuck in this situation where this is the feast or famine cycle, right? Because by the time you get here, sorry, I'm out of focus. This is so hard to turn around. You've got a lot of ground to make up. So so now I'm just going to ask this question because you for how many years did you run the Explainers in Sydney?
I ran the Explainers for 4 years and I ran another studio called 6040 for 13 years before that.
Okay, so wow, total of what's that's like almost 20 years. Yeah, okay, that's like almost as much as my 20. Do you ever feel old? Do you ever feel like you get that's where all those gray hairs come from?
They're blonde hairs with all the sun down here.
Okay, good. I love it. So I'm curious, this feast or famine cycle that we all know, right? We get busy, we stop selling. Nothing revolutionary there. Was there ever a time when you felt this acutely? And you know, that's first question number one. And then question number two, did you ever figure out a basic solution to the riddle of how to get out of that cycle?
I certainly found my solution. I guess it's almost interesting, like the two studios I had were almost the two sides of the behavioral pattern that we're talking about. The first studio, definitely we went into that feast and famine cycle where we thought it was all about the work. Our talents lay in doing the work. And so we would get lots of work, we would bury ourselves in it, and then we would not look for work, and then we would run out of work and we go, what do we do wrong? I think we'd take it incredibly personally and go into an emotional spiral where we'd think that everyone hated us, and then something else would come through. Eventually, we went through too many spirals and we stopped being business partners. But then the Explainers, the next business, I started that with a salesperson, and he ended up being, and I guess I was relying on him to sell stuff for me. Again, I thought I'll be the jazz hands creative, and you do the selling. But he ended up being a bit of a crook, and I had to fire him, which was very dramatic. And he was a physically imposing person. He was a commando, so firing him was quite a task. Okay. And then after that, I felt like, oh shit, I just have to be a salesperson. After having fought it for so long, it's like I had to do it. So it's just there was no question. It's like, you chose to do this thing, you chose to run this business, you need to go and sell stuff. So it's a matter of finding, for me, it was finding what I was comfortable doing. And I found, public speaking I was comfortable at doing. And well, I couldn't sell stuff to people. I could try and put the idea into their head that they needed what I was selling them. So I saw as a policy of I watched Inception a lot. That was like my movie I went to for comfort at any point. And I just basically thought, it's just Inception. I've just got to put these ideas into people's heads, and then they come back to me and think, what I need is a video that does this. I'm like, yes, it's exactly what you need. So I just watched Inception a lot and convinced myself that that's what I had to do. So yeah.
So when you had to dispense with this imposing individual, was there any sort of a habit that you broke, or a habit that you put into place that maybe put you out there and got you speaking, or put you in those places where you could even make that Inception move?
I think it was ownership, like taking ownership of it. It was something that I had just thought, that's not my job. And I think a few people yesterday, when we were on the salespeople call, they're saying, like, that's not my job, I don't know how to do it. I think when it comes down to it, it's about moving boxes along a Trello chart and going, how do I get this box to there? How do I get this box to there? And breaking down what seems like this huge daunting task into, all I have to do is email these 5 people this week. All I have to do is talk to this person. I think it's for me, it's putting it down into tiny behaviors that add up into bigger behaviors.
Yeah, actually, I was just reminding me, because in my notes here, when we were talking about preparing for that sales keeping stuff, we were talking about the system that we're kind of going through, teaching all these habits. It starts with prerequisites, right? Then we're going to build the system, we're going to teach the routine, and then optimize it. And I will say this, because I'm thinking back to my days, and when I was running Impossible, one thing I noticed was it was hard for me to put a habit into place, because there was always a blocker. And it was something like, oh, I'm going to reach out. Oh, our show reel isn't cool enough. Oh, I'm going to reach out. Oh, our website isn't up to date. Oh, I'm going to reach out. Our message or our angle, our expertise isn't clear enough. So I always felt like there was some mess I had to go clean up. Like I had to reorganize my desk and, line up the paper clips or something. It was always more important. And once I got those prerequisites, as I call them, great site, great show reel, right? Great mailing list, great LinkedIn machine, great whatever, all that stuff just like in place. I removed all the excuses. So then for me, the habit was a lot easier. So that was one thing that we talked about yesterday. And I think that's really where we tasked people with, was make sure all these things are in place, because next week we're going to start building this really simple system.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. And
so
there's 2 people about that blog.
So now I guess the question is, what do you say to the creatives out there who hate the word sales, because they hear sales, they get triggered? Why?
Yeah. Why? I think everyone thinks of used car salesmen. They think of people wearing plaid pants, selling a Cadillac on a lot with bad haircut, or they think of someone. No, yeah, that's a very tasteful scarf. You're not a used car salesman, Joel.
Okay.
It's sort of Burberry. I think people find it repulsive. They think it's the opposite of being a creative. But creative people are very good at selling. I think most creatives. The flip on sales is like, if I believe in it, I can sell it.
Interesting.
Like if I believe in the product, I will sell it, and they will passionately convince people that this is the best thing. And when you think of someone pitching their creative solution, the thing that they've been thinking about, they are all in. They will pitch their pants off. So I think creative people are good salespeople. I think it's finding a new way of looking at it. And as you've been saying a few times, it's about sharing expertise. It's not about trying to force people to do something that they don't want. Like, they're out there, they're looking for your services. It's just about you presenting yourself as the best solution.
So I'm jotting down a note here, because I thought I might as well just put this in big, bold type. Here's my encouragement to everybody in the industry. Let's just, I know we use the word sales as a convenient label. Okay, but let's just say, okay, it's only a label, it's only a word. if you feel triggered, if you think there's a bunch of baggage, forget about all that, because we're just going to redefine sales. Here's my little thing. We might call it sales, but what we're really doing is, sorry, you probably can't hear me, is building relationships and sharing expertise. And it's funny because yesterday there were like 3 people that had that look on their face of like, oh, well, that's way like, okay, cool. So when we talk about all these simple things like let's build a habit, let's respond to incoming leads, let's create a sales pipeline, and let's nurture and do this outreach, we just keep reminding everyone, all we're doing is building relationships and sharing expertise. And I remember I told them my little story of the first time I came to New York on a sales trip, and I was so intimidated. There was such imposter syndrome. I'm thinking of like Tony Cadillac is here. He'll know. Like as I was in my taxi ride going through Manhattan, and I'm passing by Thornburg and Forrester, and there's Loyal Casper, and there's Big Star, and there's Trollback. I was like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm just lowly little Impossible Pictures guy from New York. But once someone helped me realize, no, Joel, the people here in New York are going to be curious to meet you. And your job is, right, just build relationships and share your expertise. That was the game changer for me, was realizing, oh yeah, people are curious, and I am different. I have something to say. I am an expert in the way that I did it. So I started sharing that, and I made a habit of it. There's that word again. Every, twice a year, 3 times a year. Guess what? I would have come to New York, because after that first sales trip, we got invited into a big pitch for Sundance and won that job. And then it was like, game on. I'm gonna go there every few months, because this is now like, this feels really good when you go to a major market and sell. So yeah, I think that's my encouragement. Do you have a similar, I don't know, anecdote or story or something like that?
I think a bit of, what you were saying reminded me of like a lot of people when we started talking about sharing your expertise, and people would say, but I've got nothing to say, or no, what I say is not interesting, or I can't believe that Colin yesterday was saying that he has nothing to share because he's a very opinionated person. I'm like, you have opinions spilling out of you like a waterfall. I can't believe that you have no expertise or no little tidbits that you want to share with people. And I think it's hard with, you spend all week in your studio, in your business, like you're doing it all the time, and you can't see the forest for the trees. And so however you can find that space to pull back out and see what's interesting about what you're doing, or what is special, or what is unique. And even though all your friends might be motion designers, or your friends might be animators, and all you talk about is this stuff, remembering that your people you want to sell to, they don't do your thing all the time.
Right.
And there are interesting things out there. So trying to find what's interesting and what's special in something that you do 24/7.
So
that's worth reflecting on.
So I'm going to give everyone one little nugget here, because this is something that we're going to get into deeper as we go through all this sales keeping stuff. And this is going to sound really counterintuitive, because business owners, I love this about all of you, and this is the way I think too. We're all about results, right? Like we don't really respect effort. We want results. And so when we hire people and when we engage people, and of course, when clients engage us, we get it. All about results, all about results. The curveball I want to throw everyone here is when it comes to sales, this is something I've noticed with a couple shops that I've helped put this little system into place. Guess what we actually need to do? I find it's helpful to forget about results and focus on efforts. Sounds totally backwards, right? Like, I just care about results, Joel. But what I have noticed is that when you focus on results, you discourage either your salesperson or you discourage yourself, because it's a little bit like trying to climb a mountain in one giant leap. Like, oh, we need to close it. We need to close a deal. We need to fill our pipeline. And if instead we say something like, you know what? It's like brushing our teeth. It's like brushing and flossing. We just do it every day because we know it's good for us and it keeps us healthy. In the same way, if I can create a little frictionless system, and for me, it's like a checklist, right? Like Matt, you saw what we're building. We're building this really dumb Google sheet with a checklist in it that we're going to run every week. Everyone, like, did you do these activities? Click, 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 click. And if you do those activities, we're going to celebrate. Not because it's results, it's just effort. But what we know is if we keep that effort going, the results show up, even though all we really care about is results. I know, but we can't focus on results. We have to focus on efforts. I'm just curious, do you, has that been your experience either?
Yeah, and Dave Cochran's on the call, who we've been working on pivoting his studio to Light and Fury. It's a new studio, and we made a business bingo card when we're sort of planning out what the next year looks like. And we want, we put down all these people we want to call and get calls from. And last week, Dave just started going out there and calling them all, and they all started replying. And all day I was getting texts from Dave going, bingo, bingo, with screenshots of these people coming back to them. And it was tremendously exciting. And I think, when you're looking at like tiny little rewards, like, yes, they haven't signed off the job yet, but the fact is they're getting back to him. We've just launched this new proposition, got these new methods in place, and it's paying off. And it was really exciting to watch. Well, I was showing people these little bingo texts, and maybe it wasn't as meaningful to them as it was to me, but I was just getting some.
I can tell. Yeah, I can totally see why you would get a charge out of that. And by the way, Dave, congrats on the pivot. It's very exciting. But yeah, I think it's interesting. And now let's ask this question too. Think about the power of positive peer pressure when you have maybe a small team, and this might be partners. Maybe there's an EP or a salesperson. And every week, everyone gets together and we all look at one report and we say, how did you do? Oh yeah, I checked off my 20 things, and I checked off my 10 things, and I checked off my 20 things. And we say, yay. We don't say, yay, where the hell is the job? Because we know it's coming. It's coming. It's coming, right? We just celebrate, you did the work. You did the work. You did the work. And if we make it frictionless, hopefully that sales work is, 30 minutes a week. Maybe an hour. I mean, if you're a salesperson, sure, you're going to do 8 hours a day. But if you're a partner and you're super busy, I think there's still enormous benefit in doing those 10 or 20 things every week in 30 minutes. Get it done. I don't know what else to say other than it works. Avoid this crazy curve that we drew here, right? Don't get stuck, right? Don't be this guy. Don't be this denial guy. So what other, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think selling creative services, I just heard someone describe it, it's a complex sale. Like it's not like selling bananas. It's not like selling bread. Like you don't need it every day. In theory, you don't even need it. Like it's a luxury item. And people, particularly when I was doing character animation, it's not something that people need all the time. So you need to be, it's a slow boil, and sales take 3 to 4 months. They're not something that you just pick up the phone and sell someone. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it does happen like that. You send one email and someone goes, oh my God, you're exactly the person I was looking for. But generally, it's going to take a few bites of the cherry. It's going to take building that relationship, and that's what it is. So it's a slow seduction. It's not a fast win.
Yeah. It's a slow burn. Oh wait, I just saw something from Jed here about Jumpstart. He said he called it the sine wave of slammed versus scarred. Yeah, it's like that brings back some PTSD for myself as well. Just getting through it. But yeah, it is, we're selling subjectivity, and there's so much to glean as we go along, right? Because once we have a basic system running and we have those basic habits that are formed, then we get to start to optimize. And optimize is, I think, to your point, Matt, you're asking questions like, well, who are we targeting? Have we ever really thought about, right? Who are we targeting? Have we thought about how does our expertise solve these people's problems, right? Have we thought about, are we in the right category? Are these people the size buyers? I mean, there's all sorts of ways we can optimize as we get into it. But we want to, first and foremost have a very simple, system that we can run like a routine that's painless, so that whole, oh, there's always something more important to do, doesn't stop us. We can still find time to do our sales work and stay out of that feast or famine cycle.
Yeah, and to share the load amongst, like, if you have a studio, if it's more than just you doing it, how can you get the other people around you to help? And they may not be the one that picks up the phone. They may not be the one that's doing the jazz hands and the presentation, but they can help knock down some of those blockers to get you into more of those conversations or more of those presentations, so you can avoid those little things. And I think you'll find that people in your business, they want to be involved. They want to know the efforts you're doing. It's not something that I always used to think that being the boss meant you had to sit at your desk down the far end and just kind of like go into a mental fugue about who am I calling and all this responsibility. People want to help you. Like they want the business that they're involved in to succeed. They want their jobs to be meaningful. So if you can find ways to involve them in it, and it doesn't even, you don't need to share numbers or financial reports with people, because that,
right,
that's too much. But sharing the load and reducing those blockers when you're looking at that list of things, I think you'll find that people want to help.
You just reminded me. I'm going to quote my peer, David C. Baker, who I really love and respect, who works with agencies, right, like larger agencies. But he was talking about this idea of what your team wants you, the principal, to do more of. And he said this: number one on this list always is paying more attention to new business and whatever that takes. Right? It's a really interesting point that I'll say this. People on your team, they look at you taking your eye off the ball, like getting sucked into the project work or getting distracted by rearranging the paper clips on your desk or whatever those blockers are that keep you from doing those routines. And in my experience, those people low-key freak out because they look at you and they say, oh my God, Matt, if you don't get out there, we're going to die. Now, you may not be talking about it publicly, but they know the game. And so I think, to your point, Matt, there is a real value in there's a be the leader, right? And set the example, run your habit, run your system, do your sales, but have a leadership team that does it with you, and even talk about it as a team and create a culture where you can say to everybody on your team, hey, everyone, I need you to step up and own this because I got to own that. And they're all going to be like, yay, Matt, finally you're admitting the truth and getting out there and closing the next deal, right? Go build those relationships, go share that expertise, because we can't do that. Only you can.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our encouragement.
They want to help you. They want it to work.
Yeah, they want to be like the hero. You're going to go kill the dragon and bring it back to the cave, or what? I'm slaughtering this analogy, but yeah, they're ready to help you and support you in that way. So don't think that you're delegating the crap, or the messy work to them. They'll take it from you gladly, as long as you can make sure you're focused on your genius and what's going to create more opportunities for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. So with that, I'm going to say to everyone here, I hope there's been some good encouragement or nuggets or something that's a valuable takeaway. If there's something that we shared that was meaningful, we always appreciate the high fives and the shout outs. And for those of you that are not a member of the community, we invite you to go to community.revthink.com and join us. It's free. It's for owners that qualify. So feel free to jump in. And with that, Matt, it's really good to have you join me in the weekly briefing. I always love the perspective from the other side of the globe.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it's funny, in Australia, like the world shuts down over Christmas. It's like all people are thinking about is watching cricket and going to the beach and not doing anything. So it's a particularly scary time here, because you know that you're not going to see anyone until potentially February. So yeah, it's like going into a big sleep.
I was going to say, that sounds scary. I see a curve on a graph going down, and it makes me nervous.
Yeah, no, you need to be a little squirrel, like, oh my God, I got so many acorns. It's hard.
Yeah.
There'll be someone out there.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here for the weekly briefing. I think Tim will rejoin us again next week, and we'll maybe drag a special guest into it. So thanks for joining us. We'll see the rest of you in community. Keep the conversation going there, of course. And Matt, peace out from Manhattan.
Peace from Sydney. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for joining.